You guys are noisy today. River Lady here, and this video is going to be about the basics of composting. This is my composter. It's made by Miracle-Gro, and as always, I don't get any money for mentioning the product name. I like this composter because it's compact. It's only 16.5 gallons per drum, and it's a dual drum. It tumbles, which I love because each side can be rotated independent of the other. My goodness, you all are loud. What's your problem? Wow, look at you. You're a pretty duck. Okay, but back to composting. You want to position your composter in a sunny location. The sun helps to bake the materials you've placed inside and help it to compost faster. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of what you're going to add to your composter, I'll start by saying you don't need to purchase any additives for your compost. When you're beginning a drum or a container, whatever you use to do your composting in, add a scoop of garden soil. Not potting soil from the bag, but a scoop from a garden. Just dig up some of the dirt. So just pick some garden soil and add a shovelful to your composter. If you're using a smaller composter, just add a couple of small trowelfuls of soil. And that will give you all the additives you need to start the process. Never add animal byproducts to your compost. Don't add steak, pieces of chicken or fish. Don't add scrambled eggs or cheese, because even though these materials will break down, they will smell foul and they will attract vermin who will basically do a number on your compost bin. So keep your animal products out of your compost. So let's go and see the things that you can add and a few more things that you cannot. And let's dive into what to put in your composter. Items that you compost be divided into two groups, green and brown. Green items tend to be green in color, fresh. For example, these carrot peels are considered green. Another way to tell green is green attracts flies. You can see I have flies right there on my corn husks. These are considered green. So flies are attracted to the item of it as green. Dried pasta, and let's go in here. Twigs and brown paper and dried leaves and cardboard, those are considered brown. Green items provide nitrogen for the microbes living in your composter. Brown items provide energy, carbon. And you want to have a good ratio between the two. So these cherries are green. We said the corn husks, my watermelon rinds, and you want to make sure you're adding your items in smaller pieces. Don't add a whole half a watermelon. You know, break your corn husks into small pieces. I have some spinach down here. If you add cooked vegetables, make sure there's no salt or oil added to them. So this is fresh spinach, and I did not add salt. What else do I have in here? Let's see. Nothing else buried in there. egg shells are considered brown. So we'll throw them in there. Used coffee grounds, some people say they're green, some people say they're brown. I consider them brown because flies aren't attracted to them. So I consider them a carbon source. Add canned vegetables or fruits. Make sure, you see the label, this says has sea salt. Make sure the items don't have salt. If you add salt to your compost, it'll kill your microbes. Okay, what else can you add that's green? Well, your spent hydrangea flowers can be added, your spent roses, your panicles from your phlox, leaves that come off your plants, you can add those. Make sure you're not adding anything that's diseased, because that will get into your compost and affect your plants. Fresh grass clippings are considered green. Go over here and look at some things I would not add. Could have added this flower stalk to my compost from my sunflower. This would be considered green, but it died of some unknown disease. So I'm not putting that in my compost. These dried weeds would be considered brown, but again, they're weeds. I don't want those in my compost because when I use it in the spring, I'll have lots of weeds. Paper products are considered brown, but I don't add anything that has zinc on it. I just don't like adding chemicals to my compost. So this type of item I would just put in my town's recycling. It's the same thing with the paper. If I've used ink on it, I give it to the town to recycle. Don't add dryer lint. I know that many websites say you can add it, but unless you're drying pure cotton items and you're not using a dryer sheet, don't add dryer sheets. You want to keep them out of your compost because they have chemicals attached to them. You want to keep your compost as organic as possible. So those items you can put in your town recycling. No plastic in your compost. No wax paper. Oh, I love ice cream. Ice cream containers, and this is a container from Harley's Little Frosty Paws. These are wax coated, so we want to keep those out of our composter. Okay, what else? Oh, you can add tea bags. These are considered brown, so those can go in your composter. If you have rabbits, you can add rabbit pellets, as long as you don't add the shavings. Shavings and hay take a long time to break it down. Sometimes they can take years. So I prefer to keep the shavings out of my compost. And I prefer to keep the rabbit hay out of my compost. I could add droppings from my ducks, but I'm not going to go around and pick up their little poops. So I just let them fertilize the lawn. Okay, let's go add this stuff to the compost. Here I am back in my compost, and I want to give you a rule of thumb. Brown items break down slower than green items. Green items attract pests more than brown items. So if you open your compost, like I have here, and yep, I'm full of fruit flies in there, I want to add more brown. So I'm going to come over and grab my leaves and items and get those in there. Okay? Now, because brown is dry, I could add a cup of water, which I will do. This side, I have no fruit flies because I've added a lot of brown to this side. So I need to add green. And I'm just going to dump this whole plate in. And I'm holding the camera. There we go. When you add green, you don't normally have to add water because green comes with moisture. Okay. Now with this composter, what I love about it is I can tumble it. So when you add items to your compost, the best thing to do if you're using just a traditional composter is to stir it from the bottom. But with this baby, I get to rotate it. I do want to add for you to not use animal feces in your compost. Animal feces stinks, and it will attract a large quantity of flies. So that does it. That's your basics of composting. I hope you will start to compost. It's fun, and it's going to provide you with wonderful enrichment for your gardens. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And happy composting.